Have you got some great songs but no one is listening? Are you struggling to find your audience? Worry no longer. Go to musiciansmap.org/free-book and download a copy of the free ebook, How to Get Your Music Heard. It talks about growing your fan base, finding your niche and getting your music out there. The essential foundations you need and the steps to take to get your music heard. How to Get Your Music Heard. Get it now at musiciansmap.org/free-book. Welcome to the Musician's Map podcast. This week I'm talking to Teresa Bergman. Teresa is a full-time singer and guitarist from New Zealand who lives in Berlin. She's been called Berlin's best street musician. She's toured extensively, she's played festivals, and she was a finalist in New Zealand Idol. Teresa talks about talent shows, street performing, forming a band, booking agents, managers, producers, and labels. We also discuss royalties and making a living as a musician.
Oh, it's the sound of a Kiwi backyard. It's good.
Yeah. And then construction, which is kind of also the sound of a Kiwi backyard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Constant development and house building.
Yeah.
Teresa, welcome.
Thanks.
Do you want to start us off by telling us kind of who you are, what you do?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Teresa Bergman, and I come from Wellington originally. I've been living in Berlin for the last 7 years, though, and I'm a full-time musician.
Nice. And what do you play?
I play guitar and I sing.
Yep.
And have done for as long as I remember, really.
Yeah.
And my music is sort of a mix of jazz, folk, and funk.
Cool. So how did you? Let's kind of get the whole story. How did you get into playing guitar and singing?
It was always quite natural, actually. Like, I've always sung. I was always the kid amongst all of our cousins who bossed everybody into doing shows for the adults and then had to stand out the front and sing the loudest, or I'd throw a tanty. So I always had that streak of performer in me, for sure. Yeah. And with the guitar, I started as soon as my fingers were long enough, really. I remember I tried when I was 7. It didn't work out. I just couldn't quite do it. And then I think finally around 8 or 9, I started to be able to play a little bit, squeak along.
Do you remember your first song?
Yeah. The first song I learnt was Wild Thing.
Yeah.
Which must have been pretty cute, like an 8-year-old trying to pull off that song.
and so did you was it singing at the same time always?
Yeah. I always did. I always played to accompany the voice, so I never really learnt that. I just did that as such. Yeah.
And when did it kind of start to take a more of a major role in your life?
Also gradually, really. I always did a lot of music at school. I was always involved in lots of choirs and rock bands and competitions, and I did a lot of a cappella barbershop singing at high school as well. Our quartet won the nationals a couple of times, and we wanted to go to America to compete in the Worlds, but we never raised enough money with our cookie sales or whatever we tried to do, but we had big dreams. And I did my bachelor's in New Zealand, and then I decided to go over to Europe to do my master's, actually in political science. By the time I'd finished all that, I had been playing on the side the whole time, and it just seemed like, okay, now or never. Let's give it a go full time.
So you achieved a master's in political science?
Yep.
And then went,
and then now I'm a musician.
I want to be a musician.
Yeah, well, I always kind of knew. But I guess I didn't trust myself completely till I had a security plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something a lot of people do, isn't it? I did it. My security plan was audio engineering, which was a terrible security plan. I should have been a plumber.
Yeah. It pays to maybe choose something a bit different. But I actually also just really enjoyed it, study. So it was a hard choice for me, even at the end of that, to sort of follow my dreams in that area or to do the music. But I figured the other dreams could wait. You could do them as an older person as well. And with the music, I just felt like you need to be young and have a lot of energy to really dive into it. So, I chose that.
Let's go back about something really interesting that I found out about you.
You've been digging.
Freely available on your website. New Zealand Idol.
Yeah.
Now, this is really interesting because so many people want to go on those shows, and especially is it Britain's Got Talent, and they still line up, around a stadium
in the thousands,
to go on. What was it like? Tell us about the experience.
It was a crazy ride. I was only 18, right? So, and I'm 31 now, so it seems like forever ago. And it was a nutty experience to go through so young, I think, because you're only sort of forming yourself at all, and then suddenly you're thrust into this strange milieu with all these cameras in your face, and a red light goes on and you're singing to hundreds of thousands of people.
Wow.
And, I'd always sung with a guitar as well, or in a choir, or, in a barbershop quartet with cheesy actions. And suddenly I had to be like a pop star, which I felt really uncomfortable with, actually. It took a lot of courage for me to get up there. And when I look back now, I'm super proud of my younger self, because I just think, oh my God, how scary was that? And I guess it was very surreal. It was very fast. I was like the wild card in the top 10. So I basically went up there for the top 60 or something, or 24 or something. I got kicked out. But then there was like the wild card week. So I stayed up in Auckland for that. And then I got into the top 10 and then all the way to the top 5. And I never got to go home in between. And you're kept kind of in cotton wool in this like fancy house, and then you just go to the studios every day, and you're not actually allowed to interact with the public. There are all these disclosure agreements, and
oh my God, of course,
they make you sign this gigantic document when you are in the top 10. And so then I went home after I was off the show, and suddenly people knew my name on the street. And, I was 18, so I was mostly interested in going out drinking with my friends. And, you're walking along Courtney Place, and, embarrassing dads are taking off their shirts and wanting them you to sign them for their kids, and all this surreal stuff. So the 5-minute thing of fame was nutty, and I felt I felt uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it wasn't what I wanted to be famous for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. Was it, is the audition process, is that real, like live, as they portray it on TV?
It's real. Yeah.
And they film everything?
Yeah.
Man.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. When do you know that you're going through? Like, is it
They tell you immediately at all the audition rounds.
Yeah.
And then once you make the top 10, and there's like the show, and then there's the elimination show. So the whole show is just about racking up your heartbeat until you just, don't know what to do with yourself, pretty much, with nerves. But I was actually quite relieved to be out of it. Like, I had really great experiences too. I don't want to just be negative about it at all. Like, I learned so much about camera work, about how the TV industry works. I got to work with people like Eddie Rayner from Split Ends, and, the music team, Suzanne Lynch, who was worked with Cat Stevens for years, and she was our vocal coach. So those people taught me so much. I'd never had proper vocal training before.
Yeah.
So there were musically, I learnt a lot, and I think I just wised up as well to very early then to how much about appearances the industry is, and all these sort of traits in the conventional side of the music industry.
Yeah.
And that's maybe also propelled me a little bit into more of the indie path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much training do they give you? Like, is it from day one?
It's once you reach the top 10 maybe, or 24, something like that.
And you're getting coaching?
Yeah, at least once a week. But at the end it was a couple times a week. And Eddie Rayner and Adrian Stuckey, the two musicians at the time, they were actually creating all the backing tracks. They were recording them themselves, mixing, mastering every week, like 20 tracks.
Wow.
Crazy undertaking.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Huge job. So, okay, so you kind of highlighted what you didn't want.
Yeah, in some ways, because I could see through even then I could see through the sort of 5-minute fame thing.
Yeah.
You could tell that, there were lots of good-natured people voting, of course, and just getting into it and having fun with the show and everything and voting for their favorites. But it's all a bit of a 5-minute thing. And I was always interested in developing a musical career with a bit stronger foundation. Yeah.
Yeah. Something with like more authentic, more substance.
Yeah.
And so what sort of direction did you head in after that?
I went back to uni and studied something completely different.
Yeah. Did it put you off of it?
I'd say it just, maybe a little bit for a while. I just felt like I needed to distance myself from the experience. That's for sure.
Yep.
And I was just so young. I was just sorting it all out in my head, and there were lots of parts of that were hard. The media can be awful, what they say about you. I think someone wrote in a newspaper or the Idol blog or something, she could be a pop star but only from the shoulders down, or, like horrible things like that.
18-year-old.
When you're 18 and you just about die inside when you read that.
God.
So, now as a 31-year-old, I'd be much more differentiated about the whole thing. You need some time to sort that stuff out. So I did, and I went overseas and studied, but I found myself drawn to playing my originals on stage more and more and more in Berlin. I found a great band, I found a great manager and a booker, and then as time went by, also now a label and a publicist and publisher. So it just sort of happened.
Okay, well, we're going to get into how, because I'm sure there was a process, but you spent a lot of time performing on the street.
I did. Also, that's been an important part of my musical development.
Was it, is it in the form of busking? Or,
Yeah.
Cool.
I wasn't doing it for free. I mean, I was, but donation based.
Yeah, sure.
So I've actually busked since I was a little girl, since I was 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
I used to sit in front of the warehouse in Petone.
Yeah.
And make a killing, actually, because I was cute and had pigtails.
Yeah.
And then as the cute factor declined, so did the money. But over in Berlin and, in Switzerland and Austria, there's lots of great places to busk. And
So how long did you do that for? Do you still do it?
I did that for a good few years, maybe like 5 years or so, really actively. And nowadays I do mostly like club or festival gigs. But what I do and really enjoy is there are some really great busking festivals in Europe as well.
Yeah.
So they're organized. You have a spot, you're not going to get chased away by the cops. And often they give you power as well. I was carrying around a rig just on my bicycle trailer of a car battery and a power inverter, amp, all the cables, mic stands, donation box, signage, guitar, and just biking around the city like a crazy woman. You know? And somehow I always end up living on the 4th or the 5th floor with no lift. So
seems to be the way.
I guess I've become slightly less crazy in that department. Yeah.
Do you think that performing on the street kind of gave you an edge, being able to perform in front of people and kind of get that practice in?
Definitely. I think stamina is something you develop, because I used to busk for 3 hours, 4 hours.
Yeah.
Vocal stamina in particular. And you become an impact performer. You know how to grab people. And I think quite a direct result is the percussive guitar style that a lot of long-time buskers have, and I definitely have developed. You slap a bit more and you really twang the strings.
To
and
pick up the kind of air and get people noticing,
And, you just learn how to grab people, I think. Yeah, because generally you only have a little window to get them to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something, busking, I wholeheartedly support it. And I think it's the best thing. And I often tell people that are maybe too young to be playing in clubs or bars. And, a lot of people complain, there's no way for me to play. I can't get a gig. No one will give me a gig. I always say, get out on the street and take your guitar or your drums or whatever you do and just start playing. Find somewhere where you're allowed to play up in front of a shop and just do it, because it's somewhere to put you in front of people. And it's almost immediate feedback, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be careful with the feedback point because it can be discouraging at times, I guess, too. Like, you do get people who are rude or old ladies holding their hands in their ears or something, like scowling at you.
Yeah.
But that's also a pretty important point for young musicians to develop a thick skin because you need it. And you need to just be absolutely sure that music is subjective, and as long as you're being true to yourself, then they can listen or listen or don't.
Yeah.
Don't burden people obviously with the volume level or something inappropriate, but you make an offering. If they take it, they take it.
Yeah. Now, when did you start performing, or when did you start kind of jamming with bands?
With a band? Well, at high school I had actually when I was 9 or 10 I had my first band. It was a girl band called the Peace Group.
Cool.
We had 3 acoustic guitars and 1 recorder.
Peaceful.
It was not so peaceful. And we wrote mostly environmental songs. Like, it was all about saving the world.
Yeah.
We had high hopes. And lots of sort of Coke, Smoke-Free Rock West bands. Mostly girl bands, actually, because I was at a girls' school.
Yeah.
I played in a lot of covers bands during my bachelor's in Wellington. One in particular called Johnny and the Dreamboats. Just doing sort of the wedding circuit and student pubs and corporate whatever. Make a bit of money to go to Europe. And, and then over in Europe, I'd say it was when I really started putting together my own band for my solo project. Yeah.
So at what kind of point did you're writing as a soloist, when did you sort of go, you know what, I kind of need some other people to bring in and change the sound or fill it out? Or
it just sort of happened naturally. I had gigs, and the first step I took was to have a cajon player and percussionist. If people don't know what that is, it's a South American instrument. It's kind of like a wooden box, and you sit on it and you drum on the front. And it's great because it's a really woody instrument, so it goes well with the acoustic guitar. Like, the colours of those 2 instruments go really nicely together. And I had a very lyrical, great percussionist who accompanied me, and we were a duo for a good while. Then we got a bass player, sort of, filling in those frequencies in the middle. Then as my songwriting progressed there, at some point I brought in a keyboard player as well.
Cool.
Just to me, I was having to cover everything on the guitar, and the songs just kind of got bigger. Yeah. I needed more.
I guess holding down the entire sort of melodic weight of the band.
Enabled me to concentrate more on the singing as well, and also having I like my boys singing harmonies with me as well. So the more voices the better.
It is a different dynamic. How do you find it working with other people when because you are the songwriter, right? And it's your songs and it's your name. So how does that work with the other people in the band?
It's generally good. I choose them because I want them there. There have been a couple of personnel changes over the years where I've had to sort of say, hey, I don't think stylistically it's working anymore. Because you also grow apart sometimes with musicians. Doesn't mean they're any less good or anything. It's just they're maybe not what you're wanting for the next record. Stylistically. The boys are very involved in arranging the tunes with me on their particular instruments. I'm not somebody who goes on my computer and writes all the drum groups or anything. I generally have an idea in my head of what I want, and I'll try and drum it on a table to them or give them an idea.
Yeah, but you're showing up with the song and the parts and saying, this is the kind of thing I'm going for.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
And they'll help me with that. And, sometimes they'll come along with an idea for it that is something that I wouldn't have thought of, and I just say, I'll take that. It's awesome.
And, I mean, it kind of creates a whole new opportunity for gigging as well, doesn't it, when you have a full band?
Yeah, particularly for, festival gigs. if you've got a few thousand people in the crowd, it's you can play that solo, but it's a challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just great to be able to get everybody dancing, and bass and drums are just pretty damn important.
Yeah, totally, yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's kind of go into a bit of income, because you are a full-time musician.
Indeed.
And that's how you make your living, and that's the dream for so many.
Yeah.
Do you mind kind of telling us how it works, how you do it?
Sure. It's not an easy process.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to paint it like it's too easy or anything for people, thinking about what they want to do. But I mean, being over in Europe, I haven't ever followed that path in New Zealand, so I have a feeling it might be more difficult here because there's just a smaller market.
Sure.
But I've not done it myself, and some people manage it. And you also have a lot more costs to travel and to tour because you're further away from things. Whereas in Europe, you're kind of in the middle of things, particularly in Germany. Berlin has been a really great base because living costs are low.
Yep.
And you can travel easily. So that's sort of a key point. Also, the busking for years was really, really great. I used to earn busk 4 or 5 times a month, then I'd easily earn enough to pay all my costs.
Wow.
And so, I sold, I don't know, probably sold about 8,000 CDs on the streets.
Wow.
There.
That's insane.
Particularly my first EP, because it was only €5, which is a really affordable sum, and I just stayed in the markets and just ticked them off. And it has dried up a little bit the last few years, I feel. The busking in Berlin, also because it's become a bit saturated. Lots of other people have cottoned onto it.
Yeah.
But I do think there's always a hot spot to find. And it might not be Berlin anymore, but it might be, I don't know, Budapest. So you have to sort of find that hotspot and go with it and gather your experience. But yeah, and then as time went by, I got more and more gigs. I think a really important step for me was to get a good booker, booking agency, who, could really bargain for you. And you don't have to represent yourself. He can bargain a lot harder.
Yeah.
And really represent and sell the product. And he's also very active in making connections and talking to the right people. And so slowly you can put up your fee little bit by little bit by little bit.
Now, did you Google booking agents? Berlin, and
it actually happened through connections. A musician that I worked with another musician who had studied with him, and initially he had more of a small label going on, and so I brought out my first EP with them. And at the time they were kind of also gathering experience, starting out looking for artists to do that with, and he then decided to go into bookings as his sort of main thing, and we'd already worked together for years, so it made total sense to keep going.
Cool.
And it's been sort of a business partnership for 5 years now or so. Or longer, actually, probably 7 years or something. Yeah.
So do you think that you need to get to a certain point before it's worth getting a booking agent? And what point do you reckon that is?
Well, you won't get one unless you have a strong package to present to them, because they're very swamped with lots of good artists. So you need really good videos, particularly live videos, good recordings, press, and you need to sort of show that you have a following. Yeah. Generally. Either that or they just have to absolutely fall in love with what you do, So it's worth writing them, but it's also worth sort of preparing yourself and putting together a really strong package.
Yeah. And the booking agent is putting you forward for bigger gigs than you would normally get, right? So, the booking agent isn't booking you down at the Yachty on Friday in a Navara Lounge in Hamilton, because they're more kind of local bar shows.
Exactly.
The booking agent's going, the festival season is coming up. I'm trying to get you on this and this and this. Generally. And they know the people. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes little gigs come in and like through the booker as well, just because someone has gone on my website and their contact details are there, and then he organises that stuff.
Yep.
I'm not complaining about him organising it,
Yeah.
I mean, they take a fee, obviously, so you have to calculate that into matters.
Yep.
My booker is also my manager, So we have like a set fee that he takes from all my earnings.
Yep.
So that means sometimes I've organised a gig and he's getting paid his fee. But
Yep.
sometimes, you know, he's put in a whole heap of work to get us, I don't know, like a showcase spot at a big festival, like, you know, which is really hard to get.
Yeah.
And that's years of networking that goes into getting something like that.
And it's kind of invaluable, isn't it?
It is very valuable. We played at the Reeperbahn Festival in Hamburg
Yep.
and also the Jazz Ahead. We had showcases at both last year. I never would have got those opportunities if it weren't for him. Yeah.
And so is that kind of where the bulk of your income comes from, is from gigging now?
I'd say I'd have to look at it exactly, maybe 60%.
Yep.
Another huge post is royalties, mostly live royalties from playing my own songs on stage.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, which lots of people don't realise.
Yeah.
And it's really important to get your stuff registered with your appropriate copyright association and to, you know, do the registration process every time you play and make sure that that money comes back to you as a composer. Yeah.
And which one is yours?
In Germany, it's called the GEMA or GEMA, Gema. Yeah.
Yeah.
In German, you say GEMA.
And I think it's PPL in the UK. In New Zealand, it's APRA AMCOS, and what's the other one? I can't remember.
Don't ask me.
Sorry.
I know the one I have to, but yeah. And important there as well, if you are playing live a lot, try and maybe get a publisher involved. But research is really important there too, because once you sign your songs into a publisher's catalogue, they're there for life.
Yeah.
Generally, or they have to be, you know, negotiated out of the agreement.
Yeah.
So you are definitely signing something over in that case, but generally it's quite hard to, you know, to follow all the regulations of these big copyright things, especially if you're playing internationally.
Yeah.
And they chase all that stuff up. Plus, if they're good, they'll be looking for sync jobs for you.
Yep.
To get your music into,
And there's a gold mine there. If
movies,
you can get it.
TV, radio, whatever. Yeah.
So this guy who's booking for you, and you said he's your manager as well.
Yes, he is.
So how did you kind of come to that arrangement?
He was just sort of managing my life, so
Yeah.
we thought, should we give it a title?
He was already doing it, yeah.
Yeah, I have to say it sounds silly in a way, like it doesn't help anyone, but it just kind of happened because we've been friends for years and he's been building up his experience and so have I. His name's Simon Alter, and the booking agency is called Muso, and it sort of just happened that way, that he's managed my project for years, and it's really important to trust your manager.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Very lucky to have that relationship of trust.
And which label are you on? Which label are you releasing with?
So it's sort of just happening at the moment, but I think I can actually say it now. So I'm signed, or will be shortly signed, to Jazz House Records.
Yeah, cool.
Which is a German, pretty established independent label. Yeah, and it's not just jazz, as the name might suggest. The Jazz House is a venue in Freiburg in the south of Germany, but they've had a label and a publisher as well attached to that for quite some time now. And their motto is generally just quality. They've got all sorts of bands on their roster.
Cool.
Yeah, but they do really good work, and I'm super stoked to be
involved
with them.
How did you get involved with them?
It was also something that Simon kind of made happen, the good old manager. He has, one tip that I can give musicians is to either them or their representation is to go to the music conferences, not just festivals, but the conferences that there are, like the World Music Expo or the Jazz Ahead, if you're into jazz, or the Reeperbahn Festival for pop music in Hamburg. There's lots of these festivals. They're showcase festivals, and they have an official conference attached to it. You have to pay. It's normally not cheap, a couple €100 or something for your pass. Yeah. Which makes sure that not many musicians do it because they never have any cash,
Yeah.
But if you do go as an official delegate, with a name tag and everything, you're generally in a room with hundreds of people from the music industry and hardly any artists. So at those events, Simon's been going to those for years to represent his booking agency and been getting to know these labels and talking to them about me for years.
Yep.
And then he updates them and he updates them and he updates them.
And they keep track of the progress.
And then we put on a show in the south of Germany, to play in front of them. We went to them as such, organised a show in a jazz club, played. They also saw us at the showcase festivals. And then
and sort of happen from there.
Yeah, but you have to be very assertive.
And it sounds like it's not something that just happened. A lot of people think that you put a song online and it goes to the right person, the right person hears it and go, hey, you know what, here's a record deal. It's years of making connections, years of working at the craft, years of getting the right songs.
And don't be afraid to make connections. Too many musicians, great musicians, lock themselves up and just make music. And the reality of the industry is that that's not enough.
Yeah.
You have to get out there and promote yourself.
Yeah.
No one will know what you do.
Yeah, it's really true.
Yeah.
And it can be one of the hardest things to do. Well, is promote yourself, and put
especially
yourself
for
out
Kiwis.
there. Yeah, it really is, because it goes against everything that you're kind of taught, or everything in a lot of cultures. Maybe some are different, but it's hard to be a performer and an artist and to also stand up and go, oh, and by the way, how about me again? It's like,
it's cringe, but you got to do it.
Yep.
There's a line that you sort of learn over time. You might think, okay, I'm going to try and promote myself and then do a big, speech about yourself and then feel totally stupid and realize it was too much. But you've tried it and you've learned. So then you might do a little bit less the next time. And at those conferences, I've just felt like such a dweeb at times, because sometimes you are faced with someone, I don't know, I was talking to a guy and I'm like, he was doing publishing for Phil Collins and, so what do you do? And then you're like, okay.
Yeah.
What do I say? You just have to, pull out all the stops to kind of say what you do.
Yep.
And they appreciate that because it gives them a rundown, it's concise and you know who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have like an elevator pitch? How you have like in businesses, and if you have something prepared and ready. So if someone says, "What do?" You go, "Well,
You sort of develop one over those days, like yeah. It's especially like what kind of music do you do, and that's how I came to say like, oh, jazzy folk funk. So and generally it helps to give them sound references that they'll know, or
That's always a good one, eh? Yeah, it sounds like this plus this.
Yes.
I always like that.
Yeah.
So you've got, you're working on a new album?
I am, yeah. So I produced 3 tracks myself at the end of last year. Self-produced just to kind of see where I was at a little bit.
Yep.
Last year I brought out a single as well. I'm in the process of selecting the right producer right now. Something to take them to the next level.
What are you looking for, and where are you kind of looking?
I'm talking to an English producer at the moment, and I'm sort of scouting out a couple of other people in Germany and Austria.
Yeah.
I'm looking for someone who really wants to take the songs apart with me and achieve a bit more consistency than I've had in the past over the album. Yeah, and to just really sort of develop the trademark sound, which is something I think I've done it quite a lot live. I've got a bit of a characteristic live sound now that's really becoming quite solid, but I need to transfer that into the recording process.
Yeah, it's difficult.
And sometimes you really do need someone objective and very experienced to help you with that.
Yeah. Are you finding these people by, looking at albums that you like and approaching them, or through forums? How are you kind of discovering producers?
So a few of the people that I'm kind of eyeing up are through other artists on the same label.
Yep.
Where I think that their record turned out really great.
Yep.
And then sort of asking them, hey, can you recommend me to them? Put us in contact. And then also through these conferences, just through bumping into people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what sort of direction are you heading in for the new record? And where can we find it when it's up?
God, I probably change my answer every week, to be honest. At the moment, I'm in total flux. I have way too many songs for this record, and I need to choose them. Basically, the songs that I choose will be a big factor in the direction. Because I still seem to just write in so many different directions. I'm going to say, I think it's going to be a bit darker than what I've done before, and more on the pop funk side of things. There'll still be jazzy harmonies here, there, and everywhere, but I think pop funk might be a bit better description. Yeah.
So for everyone listening, where can they go and find your music? Where can they find you online?
So I have a website, which has a whole bunch of links on it. So that's just www.teresabergman.com. Teresa without an H and Bergman with one N. And basically when it's out, it'll be up on all normal platforms, on iTunes or, I don't know, all of them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Preferably, buying it is awesome rather than streaming it. But if you have to stream it, do that. Streaming still pays. Just a little bit. Like incrementally.
You can also check out Teresa at facebook.com/teresabergman.music and go to instagram.com Teresa_Bergman to check out her Instagram if you like to use that platform. Now, do you have an artist of the week you'd like to recommend?
Okay, one of my very favourite artists that maybe people won't know is Camille.
Okay.
Do you know her? She's from France. And she does amazing vocal experimental stuff. It's
cool.
Bridges, jazz, and I don't know, and weird.
Jazz and weird. Is it Camille?
Yes.
Okay.
She has an album from 2005 called Le Fille, and it's got one tone that is done with throat singing, which is under the whole album. So this tone is a continuous factor.
Wow.
And it's a really interesting way of joining up the album.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm keen to hear that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Teresa, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For your time.
All right, so this is my latest single, and it's called Tui Sings Blue. And it's nice to play it in New Zealand where people actually know what a tui is. For anyone who doesn't, the tui is a native bird to New Zealand, and a fun fact that not many people know is that it has 4 vocal cords. It has 2 full sets of vocal cords, and one is a normal, beautiful bird call, tui call, and the other one is a mimic voice. It copies things that it hears, and the end result is quite a confusing picture. So I wrote a song about the feeling of living overseas for so long, when you have a true voice inside you and yet you're constantly mimicking everything around you. So tears and so TC washing in and pouring out like the world that you mean to me. Waves of stories, written sand. Where's my rock? Where's my open hand? So deep fears in this heart again. Clear as these tears, the tui sings
nature's favorite music box, clear in its springs, oh, and the Wellington winds. Deep convention runs so true, but so does blood, and aren't I one of you? So this two-we singing blue, oh, so blue. Distance far, distance close, don't tell you when you learn to fly. A two-way ticket may never bring you home. Same old story, different view. Can't see the grass through the branches you grew. So this two-we singing blue, oh, so blue. Oh, so blue.
This podcast and the website musiciansmap.org is dedicated to sharing knowledge and advice about music and the music industry. It's all about community, honesty, and positive progress. The experiences, stories, and advice shared on the podcast are given freely with the hope that you can relate to them and benefit from them. If you've found this podcast enjoyable or useful, make sure to check out the Musicians Map ebook and audiobook about building success in music. You'll find it at musiciansmap.org/books, Amazon, and Audible. And buying a copy of the book directly contributes to the continuation of this podcast. There's also a free ebook, How to Get Your Music Heard. Go to musiciansmap.org/free-book to get your copy. If you have a suggestion for the podcast or for the YouTube channel, or you just want to get in touch and say hello, please do so via the Musicians Map Facebook group or by email at kane@musiciansmap.org. Thanks for listening and stay positive.